Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
What is up, demolition dudes and demolition divas? We have the leader of the free world and leader of the dirtbags himself. Luke is here with us today from Arizona. At least that's where his HQ is. Are you at home today, or are you on the road?
Yes, sir. I'm at home, but I will be in your stomping grounds here near Tampa Bay next week. So usually, like you said, HQ is in AZ here, but we'd like to travel around and go explore the country.
Cool. Love it. Well, guys, this might be a little different podcast. This is kind of like a fun, very Florida t-shirt inspired type of podcast. Before the podcast, Luke actually changed his shirt, and I don't have any of my phaser gear laying around. I need to get some. Otherwise, I would have tag team with him. So Luke runs a really cool company. I run a pretty cool company, maybe not as cool as Phaser. We're working on it though. And you guys, obviously our audience, are in the demolition space, and sometimes stuff like excavation comes up, land clearing, and then just general construction. Big piece, Luke. I'm sure you've seen some of the episodes and stuff, but a lot of our guys start out in some form of construction, start out on a bobcat, skid steer, excavator, that kind of thing. So anyway, guys, this is Luke. Luke, tell us tell us all about you.
Man, thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. I'm so excited because, as you know, and as I know, a lot of our audiences morph together, and it's a lot of the same audience. So as you mentioned, I am the co-host of the Dirtbags podcast along with the other Luke Payne, and we love it. We've been doing that since February 2022, and our listeners, we call them the dirtbags and the dirtbagettes. I know you said something similar earlier. So I love the vibe. I love the show. Like I mentioned, it's an honor to be on here, but I'm excited to talk business. I'm excited to talk marketing, but also construction, because I feel like my two worlds are digital marketing and then construction. And when I say construction, specifically the dirt world, obviously construction can mean a lot of things. That can be flooring, roofing, you name it, framing, but we only work with the dirt world. So that would be your excavation companies, your septic companies, heavy hardscaping even. And then typically if we have a demolition company, you would be the one we would send them to, because it's a little bit different than where we work perfectly, and vice versa. There's a lot of similarities, but there's just enough differences where I'm like, it would probably make more sense for you to take them on when it's strictly demolition.
Yeah, likewise. For us, we're pretty honed in, and we know what we're good at. We know what we're not good at. In the past life, so to speak, I had a general agency called Results Magnet. Still have it. We'll take people like occasionally, but we really don't want to get too sidetracked. So let's say you just kind of gave your target market. So for the audience, real quick, we normally do this at the back. How would they get in touch with you other than your hat, other than the sign? What is the best way to reach out to you if they fit in that target market?
Yeah. Number one best way, connect with me on socials. You can find me Luke Eggebraaten on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, but Phaser Marketing, I'd say I'm more active on that even. So look up Phaser Marketing, Instagram and LinkedIn. And then if you can't get to me there, you can also look our website up, phasermarketing.com, or look us up on the Dirtbags podcast, which is just dirtbagspodcast.com, or wherever you listen to your podcast. So it's not hard to find my phone number, my email, everything, and learn a little bit about us there.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, your last name is like all of my name. The Luke name, it's like there's others out there in the world. My first name and my last name are like your last name, blessing and a curse. It's fantastic in the social world, because like Chayton, like people don't know how to spell it, but once they have it, there's none other. I'd imagine with your last name, I've never seen it to my knowledge other than for you.
Yeah, it's Very uncommon. It's Norwegian, and
Okay.
my wife and I actually have a goal this year. So each year we set goals, and one of our goals is a bucket list section. And so you pull something from your bucket list and you do it that year. So this year, my bucket list item was to explore the Eggebraaten homeland, which happens to be
Cool.
a village just north of Oslo in Norway. And I believe the village is called Egge, so Eggge. And it sounds like that's where our ancestors came from. So part of my bucket list goal this year is to learn more about my heritage, where my family came from, and then also then go travel to that area and see if anyone's still around and go say what's up.
Go knock on some doors. Have you
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
what was that show on HBO called where they did that in where they go, Italy or Greece? Um, the guy from Sopranos who played Christopher in Sopranos
yeah,
was on it, and it was a huge show. I can't even think about it. It was huge on HBO. Well, more or less, they do that. They go to the place, and it's like, it's your great great grandma or some relative, and the
yeah.
relatives are like legitimate from that country,
Right.
legitimately speak that language, and are not interested in someone who's like, "Can I come in your house? I'm you, you're me." They're like, "We don't want any of that. You're not us." Like we forgot about your Americanized version a long time ago. You're no longer a part of the clan. I don't wish that on you, but it was pretty funny to see that, like, oh, that stinks. You went all the way over there. Ugh. Well,
Yeah.
let's hope it works out really well. I don't know, probably about 6 months ago now, I went over to Europe and Africa, which is kind of cool, for about 2.5 months. So I checked that list off. I can't even tell you everywhere in Europe, but heritage is Irish and Italian. Spent a good amount of time in Italy as well as Ireland. Met zero clan members or family
Yeah.
members or dirt bags or any of that. There are probably some dirt bags around, but
For sure.
family and clan, I could not find. And frankly, like I just wanted to kind of soak it in a little
Yeah.
bit. And times are so different. I could be anywhere in those countries and I'd still feel like it was nothing relative to what our grandparents or great grandparents, would have experienced. But boy, it was cool. And the food for sure in Italy was incredible.
Yeah.
Ireland, you know, I think I had corned beef once there, and I thought that would be like a big thing, like what you would have for St. Patty's Day. There was no green beer. I did see a bus, which ties into our world. It was on the bus, and it said artificial intelligence made this picture, and it said something like the script to the AI was show me an Irish man, and it had a leprechaun. And it said, "This is not Ireland. We can do better." And I was like, "What weird government organization paid to put this ad on a bus?
Yeah.
Probably many buses throughout the city." I don't know, man. I think that will be really cool, and it's definitely a different take than the way I went for my trip. My
Yeah.
trip was partially business, like filmed some really cool content, met some really good people, set up some really good relationships, and maybe one day we'll be over across the pond because I went on a few demo sites,
Yeah.
some crazy arenas, really crazy arenas, some hotels getting taken down. What we do is everywhere. Have you guys ever done like international type of
So
clients?
we have some Canadian clients, but I don't consider that international, of course. And we've looked at doing some English speaking countries. For example, New Zealand and Australia would be a good start for us. We've got some dirtbags down under that listen to the show and own excavation companies that would be a good fit. And now we're just trying to figure it out of making that next step of bringing them on as a client. And really, it's simple what we do, and I know it's pretty similar to what you do. It's website SEO, paid ads, and when you look at it like that, it's all very similar across the other countries as long as it's English
Mm,
speaking, and a little bit changes with the domain, but not a whole lot. So we're excited to expand that way. However, it's not my number one focus because we still have a lot of states to go through here. We still have a lot of
yeah.
cities to bring clients in on. So I don't want to put all of our resources in expanding internationally when I think there's still another 500 clients we could bring on nationally.
Spoken like a true dirtbag patriot. Things like, man, I could get political here. It's like, Israel and Ukraine and Russia and all. Forget that. No, no, we're gonna stick right over here, focus in our own backyard. Which honestly, politics aside, like business wise, I get that. Even travel wise, like when I went on that ridiculous charade that I did for 2.5 months, it was simply because I was like, dude, I don't want to be on a plane for 10 hours without like actually going and doing something really amazing.
Right.
Like, and I had good seats and everything, and I was still like, I can't go to sleep on a plane. And the times lined up in a certain way, obviously, when you get somewhere versus when you leave. And yeah, it was kind of a whole experience. So yeah, I'm with you. Like, there's so much that we can do in our own backyard, especially for the business models that we focus on. Like, what was it? I think it was yesterday. We had a really good podcast with a guy out in Texas, and he was Texas through and through and through and through. And it was actually really cool because they're doing like roughly $60 million a year in business in their demolition company. And he's going to listen to this, be like, yes, that's definitely me. He was such a solid, authentic, real guy. It was crazy. Like the types of people that are in our space are not all actual dirtbags. They're out there. There's some of those. But there's so many good, legit, like patriot, trying to take care of their brothers and their sisters and, their business family. What have you experienced in that from your clients? Like, what type of people do you guys attract?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a focus that we put more amount of time on than most people think. So as I mentioned earlier, we have about 48 full-time clients. They're all in the excavation space, and I would go to bat for every single one of them. And we've had to say no to a lot of clients. We've had to let a couple clients go. Obviously, we've been let go by a couple clients, and it's just how that works. But we are very picky with who we want to work with. And a couple of reasons for that. One, we want our relationship to be a 5, 10, 20-year business partnership. I don't like to look at it as they're hiring a marketing agency, but no, they're getting a full partnership, a full digital marketing department, a team that's going to work with them through the years, through the economical changes, through the ups and downs, the growth, the drops, everything. So at the end of the day, you want to work with people behind the business. And I think that is a huge advantage of our company is, of course, we only work with excavation companies. And I think on a personal level, we hit the nail on the head. So on the business level, that is something that we are continuously working towards beefing up. We're constantly adding more resources, investing in our team, but we had to start with the tried and true, just simply being a good person, being a good team, being transparent, owning our mistakes when there are mistakes. And that is how we've grown, is each client we work with. I always like to say we do a reverse NDA. And so if a client works with us, they have to realize that we're going to be talking about them to everyone. We're going to be showing off their website. We're going to be telling people what we're doing for SEO with them, because we have nothing to hide ever. There's no magic tricks with what we do. We just build good digital marketing habits. And when we've done more of that, it's really built more of a community within what we do. And then you tie in the Dirtbags podcast, where there's more than just digital marketing, but there's a podcast. There's something we can listen to every other week. And then we have our webinar series where you can learn a bit more. That's Dirtbags University. So there's just these avenues that we're building, as well as I wrote my first book and published it in March this year, and that's called The Digital Dirt World. So there's definitely this theme of value we're trying to add, but we're trying to do it in a way that even if you don't work with us, if you don't hire us as your marketing agency, you can still be very much a part of what we're trying to do to move the industry forward.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. Are you on the New York Times bestseller yet? Or like Grant Cardone, you're like elbowing, like, get out of the way,
basically.
man.
Yeah, Grant and I go way back for sure.
But when he go to Miami, he actually this is so funny. It's a whole nother interesting topic, but let's just face it head on. So I live near Scientology HQ. That's right, Scientologists. Grant comes through. actually, in a weird way. From Miami, he bounces over because their headquarters is about 30 minutes from here.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we might want to put that as a hashtag when we put this online. There is a lot going on in that world right now. It's very interesting. There's a whole like protest and movement in that space. So very interesting, Mr. GC, and we'll see Tom Cruise lives over there for Scientology reasons. I'm actually fascinated by it. There's like a city called Clearwater. There's the beach, which is amazing, beautiful.
Yep.
And there's the city. And I promise you, and I'm not helping these demolition companies, I do have a strange inclination once a month to go pop on over there. I assume you've never been there before?
Nope.
It's wild. It's like an empty city. It's a downtown. It's cool. It looks nice aesthetically. And then you have a bunch of what I call like airplane, what are they? Not the pilots, but the people who help you with your chairs and stuff, the flight attendants.
Flight attendants, yep.
They're dressed up like that. And these people are like in training, or they're normal people not dressed up like that. And they're, you need big money to be a part of that, religion. It's just fascinating. I could talk about that forever, but I'll go through that city occasionally. There's no one there, but a bunch of these flight attendant looking people just scattering, walking around the roads. And there's a whole movement right now where they're like protesting it and trying to get their tax money taken away and stuff. I have no idea. We can go on a total rabbit hole about that, but Hulk Hogan lives right over there, and he just married a Scientologist, which is kind of fascinating. Yeah. He's like, he wears the Jesus piece and stuff. And then I'm like, wait a second, you just married a Scientologist. Like, I don't know how that works out. It's cool. Hulk Hogan tangent here. I got a photo the other day from a guest and a former client. He's moved on. He's now in the pool business. And that might actually, that's a side tangent there that I'll have to check on for later. But he sent me a picture of him on a wrecking ball. And he said, this is when the Miley Cyrus song came out. Thought it was so cool because this is my guy Mike sitting on a wrecking ball. Hulk Hogan, I showed him the video, did it was like a GoDaddy, I think it was called HostGator.
Yeah,
did a commercial where he was in a banana hammock in a man thong on a wrecking ball, and they played Miley Cyrus behind it.
Oh man,
Big
what a sight!
Did that? Yeah, what a viral ad. Tell me about that. Like, that's an example, right? How do you make what you guys do fun, sexy, appealing, call to action? We could talk nerdy. How do you guys do that so consistently in businesses, mine as well, that it's not frankly sexy. It's cool once you learn about it. It's fascinating once you learn about it. But prior to, the customers, they usually just have something that needs to be taken care of. So how do you make what you guys do appealing?
Yeah, I love that. I think honestly, it's not even us. It's just taking what we know is badass of what our clients do and bringing it to life online. And it's, I would say we're kind of lucky in a weird way because typically the excavation industry is a bit behind with the digital world. So let's say 10 years behind. And so what we do is we just build good websites, but we do it in a basic way. And we also build them as they're SEO optimized. So that's more of the back end. But these companies are already doing rad shit. They're already doing really cool stuff. And we're just building that in an online platform, which typically they haven't had before. A lot of the clients we work with are typically in between $1 to $10 million in top line revenue. And it's the owner maybe built the website, or the owner's spouse built the website, or maybe they had an intern build it a few years ago, something like that, where it just hasn't grown to the level that their company is currently at. And one thing I always love to ask our leads or our potential clients is, do you think your website accurately represents your company and the history that your company has? And almost always,
that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, exactly. Almost always it's a resounding hell no, or absolutely not, or that's why I'm talking to you right now, that kind of thing. So it's just a great point, because I'm not trying to hard sell anyone. It's just, if you reach out to us, you've seen all the work we can do, we can do it. We know that we can do it for you. And really, it's just making sure that they want it as well, and making sure that they want to see their story, their brand, perceived in a way that they know is a bit more accurate than what's currently out there.
Okay. Got it. That's fair. Let's say someone who's listening right now and they're like on the fence, they're kind of so. Let's say they feel like they got a lot of business right now. There's obviously room to grow.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? They may not sign up to speak with you, but let's say for some reason they do, and they're like, hey man, I'm just kind of kicking tires, curious. What would you kind of go through? I'd assume a number of questions, just like that particular one. Not how would you convince them, but how would you lead them to the good side or the right side of the type of success that your clients are having?
Yeah. So I think that's a very good question. I don't think there is a good side or a right side. I think it's whatever their goals are. And typically it's one of my favorite things I hear is if an owner, especially with a construction company, says, I don't need marketing. I have more work than I can handle. I just need to hire. I need to find the right people to hire. I'm like, well, how do people find you to come work for you? And that is marketing, right? So
Mm,
and that's where we're different than a lot of other marketing agencies. We don't promote ourselves as we are going to 10x your leads or we're going to increase your business tenfold overnight. Most of our clients wouldn't want to work with us if that's what we did, because most of our clients have way too much work that they can handle right now. So they
interesting. Okay.
they come to work with us to increase their online presence so people know they exist, or they come to us to build their website in an appealing fashion that would convince a 22-year-old to want to come apply and work for them, to build out a careers page on their website where they can always be accepting applications, not just when they put a Facebook post out and say, send me an email. So that is the majority of what we do, is just the overall branding and the overall image of your company. Of course, coupled with, we still want you to get leads and grow, but there's a bigger piece of it as with the company as a whole. And one other thing I would say to that, as far as if somebody's asking why should I even do this, I like to look at, well, what do you want to build? Do you want to build a job with your name on it, or do you ever want to pass this company down to your kids, your grandkids, to somebody else? Do you ever want to sell the business, or do you plan on just working in it forever? Then when you pass away, it just goes away. And so building a legacy and building something that can still operate without you there all the time, that is something we're big on, and something that a brand needs to do. And don't get me wrong, you can still have your last name in the company name. That's okay. But you can't, the whole company can't be reliant on you to be there 24 hours a day to keep things running. There's got to be systems set in place. So what we do and what our team does is we help build the digital marketing style systems and the branding so that you can have that part taken care of as you start to check those other boxes as well.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. And I think that there's got to be really a full scope, because I'll give you an example. We talked to someone today through a fantastic referral of ours. And it was so funny because I'm looking online. They're a demolition company. They have a nice warehouse. They have plenty of people, equipment, and they have one review on their Google My Business. And I'm like, man, why do you even have a Google My Business? Like, what? It was a 4-star review, so you know it's real, right? It wasn't perfect 5, but I'm looking at it and I'm going, you guys are doing millions of dollars a year. You're in the community. Like, their website, aesthetically, it was decent. They know that it needs to be better. And I asked them at a point, and I was like, hey, how many opportunities are you getting from your site? And that could be employment, that could be, opportunities to work, that kind of thing. And the guy was like, and he's an executive at the company. He's like, yeah, 0. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I mean, I'm not surprised you have one, Google review. Your website is mediocre on a good day. But to me, that was fascinating. And, our people, they typically do have an appetite. I talked to a very big company in Ohio doing about 34 million a year. And it was pretty funny because he came on, instead of the podcast, he came on to talk in a sales conversation. And I was just like, all right, this is cool, man. Like, you actually get it. I talk to guys who are little and I respect them by far, but they're saying, yeah, we're doing $6 million a year. And I'm like, all right, well, this guy I just talked to, and he like actually gets the picture, and he could buy your company a million times over. But like the beast needs to be fed, and it's really cool the way that you guys are looking at it as an inclusive thing. My business is very much more lead based.
Yeah.
We probably will start to, as we go through more maturation, encompass the way that you guys do. A lot of our people are saying, hey, we have extra capacity, we have a great business and things like that, but we could certainly fill in some of the gaps.
Right.
Especially with the business, it goes up and down. It's very cyclical, especially when they throw in monster commercial jobs. For us, there's also residential jobs. They could clean those up, or smaller gigs. They could clean those up rather quickly. But then they have these monster jobs that general contractors can sometimes just be waiving, or the government waiving the milestone payments, and it can be like a net 60, a net 90. So is that a big thing for you guys? Like payments and all that
Huge.
stuff can be kind of chaotic.
Yep, it's one of the biggest issues in the industry, as well
Us
as
too.
a labor shortage, is payment and cash flow, I would say. So if somebody's expecting payment net 60, obviously you're already behind on a big commercial project. But then that's ideally if they pay on that 60th day, which what we've seen is a lot of times it doesn't happen. The GC will be pay when paid, and if they're not paid, they're not going to pay their subs, and it's just this whole mess. And then of course it falls on the sub to take care of their payroll and making sure that they can keep the business open while they're waiting for payment. So what we've seen with that is diversifying really helps if possible. Obviously sometimes it's tough if you have a $20 million commercial project. You can't go get a bunch of residential projects as well. But if you're in that mid range, and this is typically who we work with, maybe a company doing 5 million a year, if you get a couple light commercial jobs, a few $100,000 or more, mix it in with some heavier residential jobs where, because the payment terms are a bit different. I'm not a huge fan of only small residential because of how many bosses you will have and how many clients you work with, especially in the space of excavation. Typically it's, if you're doing lawn care or landscaping, that's a bit different. But in excavation, a lot of our guys are fixing sewer lines, water lines, putting in septics, trenching, drainage, all of this stuff. So ideally it's some of these bigger residential projects or jumping in on some commercial jobs. So having a bit of diversity can really help when it comes to cash flow and payment terms. And then knowing your numbers has been the biggest thing, of making sure you know exactly what your cash flow needs to be, and then also what your profit is going to be, and bidding it right as well.
Yeah, we hear a lot about kind of an underwriting process of customers, because it may sound like the best slam dunk job. You may get the slightly over fluffed bid accepted, and then you're working with like a slime ball. There's some people in popular culture that you've heard different stories about. We'll say, I'll go out there and say it like Trump. There's pros and cons, but he's notorious. My family's from Jersey, New York area, and my grandpa and my grandma and all that stuff. But you would hear kind of their stories, and for us, like, I'm a business person, so I get it. Like, hey, there's probably way more to the story than him just, oh, I'm not going to pay this GC or this sub or whatever. Like, forget them. There's probably more to that. But also, man, how much would it stink to be a GC or sub when someone goes bankrupt and you're stuck holding the bag on a $350,000 payment?
Yeah.
Like, that's brutal. That's
it happens too. And unfortunately, it happens too often, and you have to prepare for that as best as you can. But Luke and I, the other Luke, we talked about this on the podcast of never assuming. You have to have everything in your contract up front. You never assume that they're going to want the dirt back in the hole, is what he even said. It's just, you have to have everything listed out of what's going to be extra, what's going to be a change order, what we're going to do with the current bid. And sometimes it takes getting burned a couple times to realize that you need that, even the most ridiculous detail listed out in your contract.
Yeah. Makes sense. Do you guys have any good resources for this? Because we've been, I have some contacts. They're not necessarily demolition specific lawyers or finance people. Do you guys have any people? We'd love to get them on the podcast. Maybe you could share their info if you have anyone to
Yeah.
shout out.
I'll definitely shout him out right now because we're bringing him in as a speaker for our Dirtbags University webinar. And I'm not
Cool.
sure exactly when this is launching, but this university coming up is on January 30th. And we're bringing in a speaker, the name of Scott Pieper. He is the CEO of Mobilization Funding. He is a stud on LinkedIn. So if anyone listening is on LinkedIn, jump on there. It's Scott Pepper. He is a cash flow in construction expert, and it sounds very niche. And then when you read, he has a book he wrote as well. When you read into it, you realize how much that affects your business, knowing your numbers, knowing your cash flow, knowing exactly how to bid a project, knowing how much money you're going to need to keep growing, to pay people. He is a stud. So we're bringing him in as a speaker. He's giving a free copy of his book to everyone that comes to that webinar, just on his dollar as well. But you should get him on the podcast if possible. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's awesome.
Okay. Love that. And it's ironic too, unless I'm totally wrong or his LinkedIn's not updated. Guess where he lives?
Is he in Tampa?
It says Tampa. Yeah, that's what it says.
That's right. Yeah.
Scott Pepper. Yeah, Mobilization Funding. He's a Tampa guy, man.
That's right. We were just talking about that too. So I forgot about that. I'll have to reach out and see if he's around when we're there next week. Yeah,
it's amazing. Super cool. Yeah, we've been very desperately searching for that because in a past life, I guess I have a lot of past lives. I've had my generalist agency, I did consulting, all this fun stuff, but I'm 30 and after college, I want to get like a wealth of experience. And that's kind of what has brought me here. And I know you have a story as well. You kind of you learn quick, you get bored with certain things. And then eventually, I know in my experience and yours as well, is you kind of say, hey man, it only makes sense to be a specialist at a point. I've done enough generalist type of stuff, whether it's marketing or construction or whatever, that eventually say, you know what, roofing is the thing, or demo is the thing, or excavation is the thing, lane clearing, what have you. And you could certainly be diverse, but try to have a strong suit at the end of the day where possible. You can do residential and commercial and all these things, totally have a mix of that. That's perfectly fine. But in terms of saying, I'm a construction guy, just forever, on and on, kind of tricky. As with your people, you can really deep dive and specialize, and with our people as well. So let me ask you on that. So we got the finance covered. Is there anyone in mind for legal? Because we touched on contracts and things like that. Is there some stallion that you guys refer to that can maybe help our audience with their legal setups or conflicts that may occur?
Yeah, that's actually one I would say we don't have nailed down right off the top of my head. I've got a really good one for construction insurance. Actually, he's a dirtbag himself, was in the excavation industry for decades, and then opened up his own insurance agency that they work with construction companies only. So if you need somebody for that as well, I got a hookup for you there. His name's Sam Lambert with Lambert Insurance Services. He's out of Utah, but he works with dirtbags all around the country. So
probably has a house in Tampa too.
I'm sure, but yeah, he's a good one. And then for legal, I'd have to look through my LinkedIn and see who we typically use for legal.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. This is good because our audience, I don't even care if it's our behemoth guys who come on. These problems that we're citing are problems day in, day out, through and through. And it's one thing, like we said, for someone to get stiffed on $350K. Yeah. That's one thing. I mean, if you're doing $3 million a year, that's a bite. I talked to some of my monster guys and they're like, yeah, we've either put it up against insurance and our premiums obviously went up, or we got cut loose that next year. Or we don't. We just bite it and we try to write it off in taxes some way. But you can do it when you're a $30 million a year company. when you're a $3 million a year company, any company, to feel that kind of loss is huge.
Yeah.
So would love for our audience to be able to reach out to those people. Obviously, I will love to have them on the podcast, see if it's something they'd be open to. And last little bits is, have you ever been on sites? I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to check how often, or maybe a crazy story from being in the field with your clients.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take it the other way. So I am rarely on site, rarely, and
He's on
we
websites. He's maybe not on site. On site.
yeah. The only time I'm on a construction site is if I. This sounds terrible, but if I want to be there, if I'm visiting one of our clients, but we're never working as far as taking photos or video or anything like that. But this year is a good example. I'm planning multiple trips to go see our clients and go work with them. So not working from a marketing perspective, but just working with them on the job site. So we have a lot of septic companies, and so I'm going to be helping them pump tanks and just hanging out with them, going out grabbing dinner after, that kind of stuff. So that fires me up a lot more. We don't do any video or any drone footage in our agency. We don't even sub it out. We just refer out to our friends that do that for construction companies, and then they send us the content. So yeah, I'm excited this year. We've got a few trips planned. We got one East Coast trip where we're hitting probably about 12 of our clients, just going down the line there and trying to see them all in 4 or 5 days, and just have a good time. Like, go shoot the shit, jump in the skid steer, rip around on some side by sides. I love doing that stuff, and it's nice because our personalities line up quite a bit. And so we also, I'm a part owner in a racing company as well. And so we race side by sides and dirt bikes and mopeds and shit like that. So it's the two worlds of the construction industry and the dirt bags, and then turf wars is what the other business is. They collide so well. So we get to hang out with the same type of people, and it's just the people I really like to be around as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, one thing is making money, the other thing is possibly spending money. And it's
Yeah.
like, you do what you do in the business, and then you have the thing that just so happens to be, a working man, construction man type of thing, is anything to do with RVs, boats, ATVs,
Yeah.
dirt bikes, all that, and mopeds. That's hilarious. Love that. Are they off-road mopeds?
Some of them, yeah. So it basically,
Okay.
in a nutshell, we put on this event a couple times a year, and you can race whatever you want. We have an open mod class as well. It's just a straight 300-foot track, head-to-head racing, and we have different classes. So we have a side-by-side class, a dirt bike class, but then open mod, you typically see a little bit of everything. We've seen see a lot of Banshees. We've seen we saw a crotch rocket with dirt bike tires. We used to do snowmobiles and had to take those out of the summer one, but yeah, man, it's fun. It's kind of that, I own that with 3 other friends, and so that's kind of our guilty pleasure business where we get to go rip around, have fun, make a little money. But then, of course, Phaser Marketing and the Dirt Bags podcast, that is where I'd say the rest of my time goes and my focus.
Okay. Love it. Yeah, it's cool. I can't tell you, we used to have a mountain house, and there's a lot of contractors that live up
Yep.
in the mountains when I was in Georgia. And it's so funny because you would go to like the crash test derby type things, or you go to the racetrack out in the sticks. So many of the times they would like self-sponsor the vehicle with their construction company. And you're like, that's what we were talking about earlier. Like, when you play, it's on the business.
Yep.
When you're doing business, it's on the business. And like, it's a great incorporation of your like 360 life. You could have fun. Somehow it's business corrected and correlated. And then you could have fun even when you're working. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point too. And I never pretend to be somebody I'm not. And so when it comes to a construction site, for example, I don't pretend to be a great operator. I don't. And I would love to learn more, and I love to jump in and just learn and have them teach me, but they know I'm not going to come in and just pretend I know what I'm doing. And just being yourself can get you so far, and people respecting that, okay, this guy's not lying. He's not trying to be somebody else. He's just doing him. And yeah, so that I try and focus on that. Anyone we're around, just being yourself and, trying to be the best that you can be as well.
Okay. Love it, man. We'll respect the time. I have two more questions. One is kind of interesting. We actually have the press release right over here. So you can totally hate on this idea. Now let's just to kind of get your mind in a little bit more of my world. So we are much more lead focused.
Yep.
More revenue focused, that kind of thing. Not to say that you guys aren't, but earlier you kind of identified a little bit that you're like a 360. We're kind of like a 180. We certainly will help a website look better. We'll certainly work on a brand or logo if that's something that our client's interested in. But for us, we're really judged on phones ringing and emails, which of course we have to have those other things somewhat covered, just not to the extent that you guys would. We got to have a GMB. It's got to have a decent amount of reviews. Like, we can do all the ads in the world. If we don't have something where people could trust this company, it's very hard. I could throw thousands of dollars a month at advertising. But check this out. We're doing it for our site as well as for all of our clients' site. Very, very lead minded. The press release is about to be coming out. I would say next week it will drop. So more or less, we have a relationship with a software company, and they focus on a thing that is called first pixel data. And effectively what we can do for our site with demolition marketing leads, as well as for our clients' demolition company sites, is scrape. And this is, at first it doesn't sound that great or that special or new, is scraping viewership data from the sites, not telling you, because this stuff is more antiquated, used to be cool. It'll tell you, hey, someone from NASA looked at your website, or someone from Walmart looked at your website. And to me, like, that's so stupid. Like, why would I pay real money to know that? Because I can't do anything with that data unless I know that we have someone who's been calling to work with us from Walmart, and I could just be like, hey, Brad, were we on your mind? Like, you don't even want to tell them that they went on the website. So what we're doing is effectively using that data to retarget, hyper retarget, because we know these people have been to our website. With this first party pixel data, we can scrape anywhere from 20 to 30, sometimes 40, 50%, if we're really pushing it, of user bases that come onto our site or come onto our client's website. So we get their name, their phone number, their email, all that stuff. Anywhere from like the 20 to 50 at the max rate of the data that comes on our sites. And then we could retarget them with advertising that's educational. We can get really sly for some of my, how do we put it, extraordinarily money-oriented people. They can make a cold call, so to speak, and do it from an educational, communal sort of sense, where they're not going to say, hey, we have some really cool, badass technology that we know it was you who went on the website for 5 minutes over the course of the last 2 days. But they can call and just say, hey, just want to introduce myself. We're a demolition company. We're local to Atlanta, New York City, what have you. So all this to say, would really love to kind of hear your feedback on that, because for us it is newer. But as long as you're not a creepazoid, and you do it from a advertising retargeting, or you do it from a cold email where it's educational, or you do it even as a cold call, and you do it in a manner where it's not creepy, but it's more informative, nice to know you, that kind of thing. If that technology were in your pocket and you were revenue focused for your clients as like the end all be all number one thing, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think personally, I do think I would need to look in the legality of it, obviously, before.
Let's say I've already done all that, and it's totally legit, totally legal. It's not, we're not partnering with Russia or or China or anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think ethically and maybe morally is, I guess, a better way to say it. I probably wouldn't use it, just because gathering somebody's info when they didn't when they didn't fill out a form, or they didn't say, I want to sign up to be contacted. I wouldn't go that route, but that's just me personally. And like for our agency, especially with, and I just think too, with our clients, our clients, they probably wouldn't, they might use it for a month or 2 months, but then I think it's like that shiny object where it's like, okay, we got to get back to work. And like, how much money is this really making us? And with how much time we're spending on it. And so, yeah, I guess that would be my honest opinion on it, is for us and our business and for my sake, like we typically wouldn't use something like that. I'm very, very old school. I like just simple, clean website build, simple, clean SEO strategies, and then ads. And that's about it. And then teaching our clients how to get out in the community better, how to increase their appearances at networking events, doing up their business cards better, working on their handshake, like stuff like that. And that's about as far as,
Wow,
yeah,
interesting. That's
that's about as
deep.
that's about as far as we go. And I always say
Okay.
too, the digital side of what we're taking care of should be about 20% of their whole plan. And so it's a very small slice of the pie, instead of, because what I don't want to do is when a contractor starts working with us, for them to just sit and stare at the phone and wait.
And
But
wait, yeah.
we need them to keep running their business. We need them to keep shaking hands, kissing babies, like all that stuff, running their team, doing things the right way. And then what we do helps, of course, but it's not the end all be all. So I guess that would be my thoughts on it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's funny. It's very polarizing.
Yeah.
You know, it's something for me, I guess, just because the nature of what we're doing. And again, our approach is not slime ball, where, if we gave it to, let's say, most roofing companies in the world out there, they'd be like, hey, Chayton, I think it's cute that you want to entertain and educate and do retargeting and things like that. But no, man, we're just going to give it to our top sales guy. He's going to call every single person. I don't care if they're actively on the website. And if they say, how'd you get my info? He's going to say, we're creeping on you on our website.
Yeah.
We have kind of a different flavor of it, but hey, I get it. I am not an electric car guy. Some people love it.
Yeah.
They're just not people who live in Chicago right now
Right.
or anywhere else that's
Exactly.
very cold, who's getting stuck in their electric car. So definitely goes both ways. So it's cool to kind of get an insider perspective on that, and one that is different than mine.
Yeah.
It does kind of help mold that idea. So love that. Last thing to cap off the podcast is, tell me, and would love to hear your expert knowledge. What separates a high quality construction owner business that you've seen time and time again? I'm sure some clients have really disappointed. I know you mentioned you've had to fire people before. What is a few things that these guys are doing? What is the day in, day out? What are they concerned about and not concerned about that leads to some of your best clients?
Dude, I love that question. I think first thoughts there, we work with a lot of guys. So when I tell people we work with excavation companies only, they think, oh, so all your clients are 70 years old plus. And it's the opposite. So most of our clients are under the age of 40, I would say. Probably about 80% of our clientele. And so the one trait we typically look for is that they gotta be motivated. They gotta be a go-getter. And honestly, this sounds cheesy. They gotta have a bit of a positive attitude. If they're just thinking that everything is always hard every single day and they have the victim mentality, it's just probably not going to work out. And honestly, construction probably isn't the best place for them to grow and prosper. Another thing we look for is business owners that are working on other areas of their life. So that might be their relationships, that might be their faith, that might be their health. Some of the construction company owners we work with that are doing very well, they focus a lot on their health. They focus a lot on what they eat and what they intake, and they care about other things as well. And being a bit more well-rounded and working on yourself can really help your business. Another thing that can really separate these companies is these systems that they implement. And I know everyone says that and it sounds fancy, but really just starting from the ground up. So we can't have the owner of this company doing every single thing from invoicing, estimating, operating. taking the trash out. Yes, you're going to do all that stuff at the beginning, and it's great because you need to learn how to do it. But you got to start bringing in pieces to help. You got to start bringing in pieces to do it better than you can. I think what holds entrepreneurs back is when they think that they are the best person to do everything, or they are the best at what they're currently doing. And once you start bringing in a few talented people, you realize, man, these people can take care of my business better than I can. I'm not going to fire myself, but I'm going to bring in the pieces that are going to help elevate my business and bring it further than what I ever thought we could. And when people have that mindset of realizing they can't do it by themselves, they can really take that next step. And that could even go into the marketing conversation. Instead of the owner nickel and diming and saying, well, I could, instead of paying $1,500 a month, my daughter-in-law can do this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, she can do it. She built websites one time. But when you see that forward vision and that, okay, I see why they're doing this, and let's delegate it to them. Let's add that piece on. We will add that into our yearly budget and we will make it happen. And those types of personalities and those types of companies, we love working with them, but also they're doing the work for us. They're doing the good work for us. They're growing. I'll say this, they could grow without us. They could be prosperous without us. We just help make it a little bit easier, and we help take a little bit less stress off their plate when it comes to the digital side of things. So those are the types of people we want to work with. And yeah, ultimately, I think those are the type of successful construction companies that we've been seeing.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, well, awesome. I'm sure we could do a part 2. And maybe, man, if I'm lucky, I'll find a way to sneak into your event over across the bridge, and
yeah,
maybe I'll bring like a little, what are the bubuzelas?
Yeah,
like they do
right.
at soccer. And after you're done, I'll like hit you with a bubuzela, and everyone will really, like, the claps will go crazier. So cool, man. Love it. Super fun. Again, if you just want to cap us off, is there an ideal phone number? Obviously, I know your website and stuff, but anything you want to share with people so that way they could reach out to you, get off my back, because again, we don't do what you do.
Yeah.
But it crosses over so much. So how can people get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, if you're still listening and you're listening this far, obviously you're a day one, and we appreciate it, both of us. And I would just say,
Absolutely.
shoot me a text. Shoot me a text is the easiest way to do it. And so 218-234-7345. That's my personal cell number. You can also, like I mentioned, find me on any social media, Luke Eggebraaten, or just type in Phaser Marketing. I manage both accounts. It's me. I don't have an assistant. So shoot me a DM or a message anytime. I can almost guarantee you'll hear back from me in the first couple days, and it's going to be me. So I love to help people. I love to point people in the right direction, even if it's not with us. So reach out, especially if you listen to this episode. I love to hear that. It would mean a lot just to let me know what you thought. And, Chayton, I appreciate you so much for letting me come on the show. And hopefully we'll see you in Tampa next week.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. And also, guys, Luke has a really weird competition where the more raunchy photo that you send to him as your first text message, the better. He responds quicker when you send awkward, weird images.
Great.
So make sure to do that. He does a little ranking system at the end of the year. He like sends you $1 million check or something like that. I don't know. I just heard it like word on the street. So make sure you guys do that before you talk to him.
At least I'll know where they're coming from. When I get that picture, I'll be like, yeah, mostly came from the podcast.
Yeah, don't cite this episode. Just send the most weird photo you could possibly do. You could find them all over the internet, or if you want to do a little photo shoot yourself, be creative. Luke will know where it's coming from. So it's a good little magnet, a golden nugget. Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And it was really fun, like just talking about normal stuff, talking about the business, talking about the construction world, and how we're really making hay out of our different arenas, and being able to give people resources. Like, so awesome that you actually came armed with people for finance, which comes up all the time, people for all these different things, insurance, all that. So awesome, guys. Luke, you and I are going to hang out for a minute, and thank you guys so much for watching another episode. Please hit him with those weird photos. That would mean the world to me. probably mean the world to Luke too. That $1 million will come your way the weirder it is. And I'll see you guys on the next podcast.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
See you guys.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.